This morning for folks waking up in Waukesha, the vast majority are showering in Lake Michigan water. You found that interactive map. Where do you find this thing so people can look if they want to?
It's on the Waukesha City front page. So if you go to the Waukesha page, government page, you can find it.
You just Google Waukesha water or whatever. Then you can click on this thing and you can see how far the Lake Michigan water has sort of permeated the system. And it's pretty much everybody at this point. Yep. City turned on the spigot to a more than $250 million project to provide water to the city of Waukesha from Lake Michigan. Waukesha had to do it. Its deep water aquifer in the ground was running low, tainted with radium. Waukesha needed to find an alternative to its water source. Situation actually many American communities do or may face in the future, which underscores the statement that I've often made on the show. In terms of resources, what regions hold power, the potential for wealth, water is the new oil. Or is it maybe even more than that?
Water is more than the new oil. There are alternatives to oil, but we don't have alternatives for water. We are here in the Great Lakes region with this incredible supply of fresh water, and it's necessary for all aspects of our life without substitutes.
Fascinating conversation I had this week with Professor Melissa Scanlan. She is with UW-M School of Freshwater Sciences. She's the director of the Center for Water Policy there. So, as you can imagine, a pretty exciting week over there.
I bet.
Right?
I hadn't thought of it that way either. That's fascinating. Oil you can find a replacement for, an alternative for.
And look at what,
not for water.
Right. Look at what oil has done for the balance of geopolitical power across the world. You know, the oil-rich countries have power. They have wealth, right? So I wanted to talk with her, though, because we've gotten many questions in the run-up to this event, Waukesha getting its water from Lake Michigan. A lot of questions. I've seen them even coming through on the text line. What does this mean for the Great Lakes? Does this mean other thirsty communities here in the U.S., say the Southwest, for example? What's to prevent them from dipping a big fat straw into this major freshwater resource?
Although they're massive, only 1% of the water in the Great Lakes is renewed every year through rainfall. And the Great Lakes governors and Canadian premiers were concerned about that, and they were motivated by concerns that large exports of water could potentially start happening from the Great Lakes.
And Professor Scanlan telling us what set the stage for what we've talked about, the Great Lakes Compact that now governs and widely restricts water from being taken outside the Great Lakes Basin. That is, rainwater that falls drains into the Great Lakes as opposed to another region. So Waukesha is outside the Great Lakes Basin. Let me draw the picture for you. If you drive on I-94, you're westbound out of the Zoo interchange, you're headed toward, ironically, Lake Country. If you drive up that big hill, right? In fact, you see it on the traffic cams always, right? All you see is taillights. The headlights are coming at you. The taillights go in the other direction. That huge hill as you approach Sunny Slope Road, that is the subcontinental divide. Water east of there flows back into the Great Lakes, into Lake Michigan. West of there in Wisconsin, it ultimately flows down to the Mississippi River. So given what I just told you, communities outside the Great Lakes Basin cannot access Great Lakes water. How is Waukesha pulling this off?
The Waukesha diversion fits into the exception for communities and counties that straddle the Great Lakes Basin boundary line. So water approved for diversion to these really nearby communities has to be treated and returned to the basin of origin in the Great Lakes.
So there are provisions, a lot of hoops you have to jump through, including the fact that Waukesha is going to send its treated wastewater back to Lake Michigan. It will do that ultimately through the Root River. So all good this time. The compact seems to be working as designed, but we'll see. Professor Scanlan, Director UW-M Water Policy, predicts there could be future tests, challenges, if you will, to this landmark agreement.
A major test to the compact would arise, I think, if a Great Lakes state faced a water crisis in a part of the state that was entirely outside of the Great Lakes Basin. And that would raise the question, would the governor of that state stick to the compact and deny water to its own citizens?
An agreement only as solid as those willing to adhere to it. So we will see, right? As Lake Michigan water now flows to homes and businesses throughout Waukesha, rest of the Great Lakes region is watching closely to see how that all plays out, and so are other